My mother looked me dead in the eye 3 weeks before Christmas and said, "You're not welcome this year. It's only for real families with children now, and you'd just ruin the dynamic." My siblings laughed like it was a joke. They thought I was going to sit in my empty apartment crying, begging for an invite. What they completely forgot was that for the last 5 years, I was the one paying for their catered dinners, renting their holiday homes, and buying every single present under their tree. So instead of begging, I took the $4,000 I had saved for their Christmas, booked a solo penthouse suite on a Caribbean cruise, and turned my phone off. My name is Emily, and I'm 27 years old. For as long as I can remember, I was the reliable one in my family, the unmarried, child-free sister who always stepped in to make sure everyone else had a magical holiday. While my 2 older siblings had kids and bought houses, I focused on building my career in marketing. I made great money, lived in a beautiful apartment, and took pride in spoiling my nieces and nephews. Every year, I was the one who bought the $300 catering packages, paid for the rented beach house, and filled the space under the tree with lavish gifts. I never minded being the financial engine for our family Christmas. I loved them, and I thought they loved me. That was until 3 weeks before Christmas. I was sitting at my desk when my phone buzzed with a notification from our family group chat. My mother had started the thread. I opened it expecting to see a discussion about who was bringing what side dish or what time we were gathering. Instead, I saw a long, cold message from my mom. She wrote that after talking it over with my brother and sister, they had decided that Christmas dinner was going to be strictly for parents and kids this year. She went on to say that since I didn't have children of my own, my presence made the dynamic awkward, and they wanted a pure family environment for the kids. My sister chimed in immediately with a laughing emoji, adding, "Yeah, Emily, you don't get how stressful parenting is, so you won't mind skipping this one." My brother agreed, saying it was time they created traditions just for the nuclear families. I sat there staring at my screen in total disbelief. I wasn't just being left out, I was being discarded like an outsider by the very people whose holidays I had funded for the last 5 years. I stared at the group chat for a long time, watching the typing bubbles flicker as my siblings continued to joke about how nice it would be to have a parents-only Christmas. A few years ago, a message like that would have sent me into a spiral. I would have called my mother crying, trying to explain how much it hurt, or offering to bring even more expensive gifts just to buy my way back into their good graces. But sitting at my desk that afternoon, watching their entitlement play out in real time, something shifted in me. I didn't send an angry reply, and I didn't type out a single line of protest. Instead, I simply replied with 3 words, "Understood. Enjoy Christmas." I closed the app, put my phone face down, and opened my banking app. Every single year, I set aside a dedicated holiday budget to cover the family's catered Christmas Eve dinner, rent the mountain cabin or event space, and buy high-end gifts for my mother, my siblings, and my 5 nieces and nephews. Looking at my account, I had exactly $4,000 allocated for this year's festivities. Money that they took for granted, assuming it would just automatically show up to make their holiday effortless. I opened a new tab on my laptop and typed in luxury travel sites. If my family decided I didn't fit into their warm holiday dynamic because I didn't have kids, I was going to create my own dynamic, one that involved warm ocean breezes, clear blue water, and zero family drama. Within an hour, I found exactly what I was looking for: an 8-day Christmas cruise through the Eastern Caribbean aboard a premier luxury liner, complete with a private balcony suite, fine dining, and full access to exclusive deck lounges. The cost for the penthouse package was just under $3,500. Without a second thought, I entered my credit card details, confirmed the reservation, and booked a round-trip flight to the port city in Florida. Over the next 2 weeks, I kept my mouth shut. When my mother texted a week later asking if I could at least drop off the usual holiday decorations and table setups at her house before Christmas Eve, I politely texted back that I was busy with work projects and wouldn't be able to drop anything off. She didn't press further, still completely convinced that I was sitting at home nursing my hurt feelings. She had no idea that while she was planning her exclusive family dinner, I was packing sundresses, designer swimsuits, and high-end evening gowns into my luggage. Christmas Eve arrived, And while my family was gathering at my mother's house, I was stepping onto the upper deck of a luxury cruise ship, feeling the warm ocean breeze hit my face. Back home, however, reality was hitting my family like a cold shock. For the past 5 years, Christmas Eve followed a strict, seamless routine, because I made sure it did. By 4 p.m., a professional catering van would usually pull into my mother's driveway, delivering a complete multi-course dinner with roasted meats, gourmet sides, and artisanal desserts that I had pre-ordered and paid for weeks in advance. The living room would be filled with customized, high-end gift baskets for my siblings and wrapped boxes containing the exact expensive toys my nieces and nephews had put on their wish lists. This year, there was nothing. At around 5:30 p.m., as the ship prepared to sail out into open water, my phone started buzzing continuously in my purse. I pulled it out and saw a flood of frantic messages in the family group chat. My mother was asking if the caterers were running late or if I had ordered from a different company this year. My sister texted asking where the main presents for the kids were, assuming I had dropped them off earlier while no one was home. When no food arrived and no packages appeared under the tree, panic set in. My brother called me twice, but I simply let it go to voicemail. They were sitting in a cold, quiet house with an empty dining table, realizing that the magical family Christmas they took for granted wasn't a natural occurrence. It was entirely funded and organized by the child-free sister they had just unceremoniously kicked out. On Christmas morning, I woke up to the gentle sway of the ship and the sun streaming through the sliding glass doors of my balcony. Outside, the water was a deep, sparkling turquoise, and the air was warm and tropical. I ordered breakfast to my suite, fresh fruit, eggs Benedict, and a glass of chilled champagne, and sat out on the private deck in my silk robe, completely at peace. While my family was back home dealing with frozen dinners and disappointed kids, I was living in total luxury. I took a photo holding my champagne glass against the backdrop of the open ocean, with the ship's wooden railing and the pristine blue sky behind me. I posted it on my social media page with a simple, sweet caption, creating my own holiday traditions this year. Merry Christmas from the Caribbean. Within 3 minutes of hitting share, my phone began vibrating non-stop. Notifications poured in, not just comments from friends wishing me a great trip, but frantic, furious private messages from my mother, sister, and brother. They saw the photo and realized instantly that I wasn't sitting at home miserable. I was on a high-end luxury cruise, enjoying the $4,000 that would have normally paid for their holiday. The flood of missed calls started coming in back-to-back, but I simply set my phone on silent, took another sip of champagne, and leaned back to soak up the morning sun. By midday, after enjoying a relaxing afternoon by the pool, I decided to finally answer my mother's 10th consecutive phone call. I leaned back on my lounge chair, adjusted my sunglasses, and answered with a calm, friendly tone. "Merry Christmas, Mom." Her voice exploded through the speaker before I could even finish the sentence. She was almost screaming, accusing me of being heartless, selfish, and calculated. "How could you do this to your family, Emily?" she shrieked. "You knew everyone was expecting dinner. Your sister had to make boxed macaroni and cheese for the kids on Christmas Eve, and there were no presents from you under the tree. You completely ruined Christmas for your nieces and nephews." I waited until she ran out of breath, keeping my voice completely steady and even. "Mom," I said calmly, 3 weeks ago, you sent a message in the family group chat telling me I wasn't welcome at Christmas because it was parents and kids only and that I would ruin the dynamic. Do you remember that?" She stuttered for a moment, caught off guard, before shouting back, "That was about dinner at the house. We didn't mean you should cancel catering and stop buying gifts for the family." "Mom, I don't fund holidays for people who exclude me," I replied coldly. "My budget for your dinner, gifts, and venue was $4,000. Since you decided I wasn't part of the family dynamic, I used my money on my own dynamic instead. I'm on a cruise in St. Martin right now." In the background, I could hear my brother and sister arguing over who was going to tell the kids why their big Aunt Emily didn't send them the high-end gifts they had asked for. For the first time in my life, my family realized that my generosity wasn't an obligation. It was a privilege they had just thrown away. When I finally returned home a week later, tanned and completely refreshed, the storm back on shore was far from over. I arrived at my apartment to find a barrage of unread voicemails, passive-aggressive emails, and a formal summons to a family meeting at my mother's house. I decided to show up, not because I owed them an apology, but because I wanted to set the record straight once and for all. Walking into my mother's living room felt like walking into a courtroom. My brother and sister were sitting on the couch with arms crossed, while my mother paced near the fireplace, looking deeply offended. The moment I sat down, the blame game started. My sister accused me of being petty and manipulative, claiming I purposefully waited until the last minute to cut off the catering and gifts just to embarrass them. My brother joined in, arguing that as the sibling with the highest income and no children, it was my family responsibility to share my success and support their households during the holidays. They tried every trick in the book: guilt, tearful speeches about the kids, and calling me cold-hearted for abandoning them over a simple miscommunication. I listened quietly until they ran out of steam. Then, I pulled out a printed itemized list of every single dollar I had spent on family holidays over the last 5 years, totaling over $20,000. I laid it on the coffee table. "You didn't exclude me because of space or family dynamics," I said, looking each of them dead in the eye. "You excluded me because you viewed me as an open checkbook rather than a person. You wanted my money, but you didn't want my presence. Moving forward, my financial contributions to this family are officially zero. If you want expensive catering or lavish gifts, you can earn them yourselves." The silence in that room was absolute. For the first time in their lives, they realized that their entitlement had cost them everything. Standing up from that couch and walking out of my mother's house was the most liberating feeling of my life. In the months that followed, my family tried to play the long game, sending cold shoulder texts and waiting for me to break, apologize, or send peace-offering gifts. But that call never came. I held my boundaries firm, refusing to engage in emotional guilt trips or subsidize a single expense for anyone who treated me as an afterthought. Instead, I focused on building new, healthy traditions with people who actually value my presence, not just my bank account. The following year, I booked another solo holiday getaway, spending Christmas surrounded by warm sunshine, good food, and genuine peace of mind. Without the financial drain and constant disrespect, my life became infinitely lighter and more fulfilling. Taking a stand against entitled family members is never easy, especially when they try to weaponize guilt against you. But teaching people how to treat you starts with showing them what you will no longer tolerate. Generosity is a gift, not an obligation, and your self-respect will always be worth more than pleasing people who only value what you can do for them. Never be afraid to step away, set firm boundaries, and create your own joy.